Evening. Welcome along to the best from the N-Power Football League. Thankfully, it's been a quiet week in terms of management changes, but it's starting to hot up on the transfer front. 6 teams have got it all to do after losing their top scorers during the current window. And you get the impression that figure will rise pretty sharply over the next 9 days. Leroy's with me tonight and we'll get his take on the day's big talking points. And if there's something you'd like to get off your chest, get in touch with Lizzie.
And if your team is one of those to lose a top scorer this week, then how do you feel about it? It might be all right. Sunderland didn't exactly struggle without Darren Bent today. We've already heard from lots of Burton fans cross about today's late postponement at Bradford. We'll try to shed some light on that for you. And what was it like at Dagenham and Redbridge today? 99p a ticket and no segregation. You can text us on 81111 or send us an email to footballleague@bbc.co.uk.
Yeah, there are over 4,000 at the Daggers today. The initiative certainly worked. Here's what's on offer tonight. Whenever Derby and Forest go head-to-head, it's usually feisty, to say the least. The East Midlands clash is our main game tonight, and you can expect a full-blooded affair from Pride Park.
And as we're finding with this new coalition, when you compromise, you come to some very unhappy results.
After his gruelling examination in the week, Clark Carlisle had more questions to answer as Burnley travelled to Scunthorpe for Eddie Howe's first game in charge. Leicester pushed Manchester City all the way in the FA Cup. It was back to the day job, though, for Sven's men as they welcomed Millwall to the Walkers.
What a busy old start to 2011 it's been for Crystal Palace. They've changed their manager and this week announced plans to move back to their original grounds. Today they needed 3 vital survival points against Bristol City.
We start then in the East Midlands and the game between Derby and Nottingham Forest. It's less than a month since these two last met at the City Ground. In a game, Forest won 5-2 to help them push up to the brink of the playoffs. So it's fair to say Derby had a score to settle. More than that, though, they were looking to end their worst sequence of results this season. Commentary at Pride Park comes from Martin Fisher.
Memories of that meeting at the City Ground remain fresh. Just 24 days after their humiliation, a chance of speedy revenge for Derby County. For Nottingham Forest, an opportunity to heap more misery on their neighbours and boost their promotion push. After 6 defeats in their last 8 games, Derby need to arrest the slide. Today, Nigel Clough gives a debut to new signing Ben Davis. Dean Leacock and Dean Moxey return in defence. Despite scoring twice in the 5-2 win, former Derby man Robert Earnshaw drops to the Forest bench. Nathan Tyson is preferred in attack. Top scorer Lewis McGugan is back too. Forest are flying, unbeaten in 5, but they've never won here. And it's Derby County in the white shirts and black shorts who get us underway. And the first 50-50 is won by Nottingham Forest. And what about this for start? They've got players over to the right. And a better first touch there by Tudgay, and Forest could have been in. This was straight from the kickoff. Forest breaking through Derby's defence. The pass to Tudgay was slightly behind him. But Nottingham Forest will feel there they had a very, very inviting situation. Forest looking by far the brighter team here. Paul Anderson. Barker is out of the middle, and it's Brayford who turns it behind for the corner. Five gone, Forest with the first corner of the game, and they're out of the traps very quickly. Corner is towards the back post, and Forest man goes down at the back post. Leacock was the defender. I think he'd lost his man. It's a big call for Graham Salisbury to make here. But it appeared to me as though Leacock lost his man, Joe Lynch, and Forest had a good shout for a penalty there. Interesting that Billy Davis is sitting upstairs for the first half at least. Last time he was here, there was a bit of an altercation between him and Nigel Clough on the touchline. Anderson. Savage needs to get the better of Moussi and hasn't done so. And then there was a foul on the giant Forest midfielder. Barker it was coming in after the Derby captain Savage had enabled Moussi to get past him. McGugan fancies this. He's scored a few crackers already this season. It's on target, and Bywater down to make a very good save. Back in by Tyson and away by Ben Davis. That was travelling from Lewis McGugan. Zipped across the turf. Bywater got a good sight of it. Down well to make a smart stop. Nigel Clough talking this week about the lack of confidence in his side at the moment. Here come Forest again with McGugan. Anderson takes over. Derby looking stretched again. It might run to Tyson. Savage ensured that it didn't. Could quite easily have cannoned off Tyson's shins at the end, but Derby again looking very exposed. The step over by McGugan. It almost reached Tyson. Collins, who's been quiet. Addison after it. Morgan the favourite, but he's lost it. Addison in here. Back for Porter. Off the line in goes Bueno, and Lynch clears for Forest. Addison will feel he should have done better. His touch, having got away from Morgan, was heavy. But did he foul Morgan there? Yes, there was a push. That's what Morgan is complaining about. And Porter maybe should have buried that opportunity. And the biggest boo of the afternoon as Billy Davis touches the ball for the first time. Commons. Stopped by Tudgai. Bueno. Now Porter. Davis is in the box. There he is. And was he pushed? This time Lynch is the defender. And does he give Davis a nudge there? Barker's header not the greatest. Cohen away from Brayford. Tudgai. That's nice. It's McGugan. Poor shot. Well, looking just to steer it beyond Stephen Bywater. In the end, it's straight at the Derby keeper. Good chance for Billy Davis' side here. Cohen's approach. Good touch by Tudgai into the path of McGugan. His first touch was lovely. The second wasn't deadly. Don't think that Savage has picked up a knock, but he knows what's coming. Disappointment etched across his features. He's only lasted 9 minutes in the second half. His afternoon is over, and the Forest fans rise to a man to applaud and cheer him off. Just wonder if this might signal the end of Robbie Savage at Derby as he protests the decision from Nigel Clough. On comes James Bailey. Fresh legs, young legs. And Robbie Savage, well, you can see there petulance from the Derby captain. Fair to say, he's not a happy bunny. More boos around Pride Park as another pantomime villain prepares to come on. Earnshaw got two in the 5-2 win at the City Ground back in December. Had a year here in Derby's dreadful Premier League campaign, where he scored just the one goal. Leacock forward. Gunter trying to clear it. Commons didn't attack it really, and Moxie is struggling to contain Nathan Tyson. And the referee wants a word with the left back here. It's going to be another card. Derby County picking up yellow cards left, right and centre. This their fourth of the game. Well, Derby have been struggling to score goals of late. Without a goal in their last two games. Forest have got a terrific defensive record, so we shouldn't be too surprised that it's 0-0 still. Maybe a chance here for Davis! What a save by Camp! Oh, the debutant almost broke the stalemate there. And Lee Camp, with his first save of the game, produces a world-class stop. Here's Tyson again. Showed a bit of that to Brayford, but has shown him a clean pair of heels. The pullback for Anderson. Earnshaw unmarked. Earnshaw! Forest go in front, and it's the former Derby man Earnshaw that puts it away. Billy Davies brought him off the bench to do just that, and Earnshaw provides the goal. Tyson with the approach. Look at the space for Earnshaw here. The first timer beyond Bywater, bottom corner. It's only the 4th goal Earnshaw has scored this season, and 3 have come against his former employers. As Earnshaw milks the applause of the Forest fans, the Derby supporters are furious. This dreadful Derby run looks like it's going to get worse before it gets better. 7 defeats in 9 if they can't turn around this one. Derby have had much more of the game in the second half than they did in the first. But Forest have got the all-important goal. And have just underlined why so many are saying not just a playoff spot for them this season, maybe this time is the year they go up automatically. Up goes Barker, good header, great save, Camp. Barker's in there again, and this time it's Lynch who clears. Well, Sean Barker, the Nottingham-born Derby defender, close to getting the equaliser here. This is Addison. And Moxie having a wild kick at Earnshaw there after the ball had gone. Forest players unhappy with that. Moxie has already been booked. And is there further punishment here for the Derby left-back? Just complete the Derby misery, yes. It's a yellow, the second of the afternoon for Moxie, and he's off. It's unnecessary from Moxie. It's vicious from the fullback, and he can have few complaints. It's now or never for the home side. In it goes from Barker. Headed away out as far as Ben Davies. Blocked by Morgan. There goes the whistle. Billy Davies has won. Forest have won at Pride Park for the first time in their history. They've done the double. Their promotion push remains fully on track. And the Forest fans, all 4,000 of them, will go home with great big smiles across their faces.
First half we had some great chances. Second half we played some good stuff. Felt we just dropped off the pace a little bit second half. But it's a wonderful achievement to do the double after so many years. You know, to come into this game after the last game and compete the way we did. It's a fantastic 3 points.
Local derbies never really settled down early on. You know, it's frantic. Nobody gets any time on the ball. They look probably the more dangerous first half. Having said that, we missed by far the best chance of the game.
An early change in the second half, Nigel. You took off your captain, Robbie Savage. What was the thinking behind that?
The information we were getting was one more thing and he's off, and after, you know, to go down to 10 men after 55, 60 minutes, we just couldn't afford to take that chance.
Were you disappointed with what Robbie was doing there then?
I didn't say I'd be back to him, but if he did anything, yeah, extremely disappointed.
Well, hearing Robbie on the radio tonight, he said he was clearly frustrated. Interestingly, he said it might be because it could be his last big game as far as Derby's concerned. We'll talk about Derby in a second, but that's their first ever win for Forest at Pride Park, first in 17 years at Derby. But they never looked like losing this game, did they? They were so comfortable, Forest.
Yeah, they were comfortable. They were stronger, quicker, faster, sharper, and more confident. You know, they're on a good run of form. Musi and Cohen were superb in midfield. They really did boss that midfield. You know, I'm not surprised that Robbie was frustrated. Yeah, and to add to the frustration of the Derby fans, it's a former Ram who scored the winner in this game. He scored a couple, of course, in that 5-2 win for Forest. He's chief tormentor, coming on as a sub. Can Forest go one better this time round, do you think? I don't see why.
After failing to make promotion last season?
Well, I don't see why. I don't care what Billy says. I think they've got players who are good enough. You know, Rob came on and typical finish, first time finish, make sure he kept it low. He knows where the goal is. Typical party people. He played for Derby and he scored 2 goals. He scored 4 goals this season, and 3 of them have been against Derby, and the Derby fans won't really relish that. But I think they've got the players to do it. I know they lost Blackstock early in the season, but they've dealt with that. And the young players coming through, like McGugan, it wasn't his day today. No. Earnshaw came on and replaced him. Good players that Billy's got there.
Tyson had a good game too, but amazing turnaround for Derby from 8 wins in 11 to 7 defeats in 9. I mean, just look at this. We've just collated some, well, body language that goes to show Derby just aren't on their form. They're not a happy camp, are they?
No, they're not. And, it shows Robbie, he's frustrated and, as he said, he wanted to play, but it doesn't help, when you're in that sort of situation. Chris Commons, who's been in transfer talks, it seems, for ages, and this from Dean Moxey was just totally senseless. Coming towards the end of the game, he can't get anywhere near the ball, and you know what, he could easily have been just given a red card just for that challenge, and it just shows frustration. It shows that Nigel is under pressure. There's no doubt about it. But the board have come out and said they're right behind him.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to a manager. You want to be winning.
Are they
games.
trying to accommodate too many flair players? Commons, Bueno, now they've brought in Ben Davies? What do you think?
When they were winning games, you wouldn't have said that. But at the moment, when things aren't going well, and when they're out of possession, it's really difficult for Derby. Those players you mentioned, Ben Davies, who just came in, Bueno, Commons, all ball players. But when they're not on the ball, they're not influencing the game. And that's why the likes of Robbie Savage and Addison are getting a little bit of a run around in there, because they can't affect the ball when they haven't got it. And so, it's a tough one, because it worked so well at the start of the season when they kept the ball and were creating chances. At the moment, that's not happening, so things have got to change slightly.
Yeah, big challenge ahead for Nigel Clough. Well, our first round-up now, and with leaders QPR not playing till Sunday against Coventry, there was a chance for the chasing pack to make up ground, including the team that's moved up into second, Swansea, and they're away to Barnsley.
No team has won more matches in the Championship than Brendan Rodgers' Swansea. As for their opponents Barnsley, they lost key player Adam Hamill to Wolves last week, but it didn't stop them from opening the scoring, albeit from an unlikely source, Bobby Hassell's header crossing the line for his first goal of the season. The Swans had lost their last 3 on the road and nearly found themselves 2 goals down, but the home side didn't get the benefit of a linesman's flag for a second time, as he deemed Danny Haynes to be offside. Barnsley held on until 4 minutes from time, until a contentious decision saw goalkeeper Luke Steele penalised for bringing down Scott Sinclair, despite the Barnsley protests. Sinclair had scored 2 penalties last weekend, and he made no mistake again to score his 5th goal in 4 games. In fact, Swansea even had a chance to win it late on, but Luke Moore couldn't keep his composure after creating a chance for himself. It stops the rot on the road for the Swans, but vital ground lost in the race for automatic promotion.
A win for Watford at the Cardiff City Stadium would have made it 7 in a row in the league, equalling a club record. One of those was a 4-1 win against the Bluebirds at Vicarage Road earlier in the season, so revenge may have been one motivation for the hosts. Less than a quarter of an hour played when Peter Whittingham's long ball found Craig Bellamy. It took the Welshman 2 attempts to score his 150th club career goal. Cardiff had failed to win in 5 of their last 6 in League and Cup, but were much better side in the first half hour. Jay Bothroyd's beautifully weighted ball put in Michael Chopra, 2-0 Cardiff, much to the locals' delight. There's no coincidence that Cardiff's poor recent form has coincided with Bothroyd's 7-week injury layoff, but he became the 3rd member of a 3-pronged attack to find a net just after the half hour. It was Bothroyd's 14th in the league this season, and Cardiff were cruising. But Watford have shown plenty of attacking prowess themselves this campaign, averaging 2 goals a game. They gave themselves a glimmer of hope just 2 minutes later. Will Buckley, with all the time in the world, 3-1. Watford are the Championship's form side, but it was a surprise their self-belief only became apparent early in the second half. It was a wonderful effort despite Tom Heaton's unfortunate slip. A 6th goal in 6 games for Marvin Sordell, 3-2, and now game on. Cardiff were now hanging on, and just before the hour, Watford thought they'd grabbed a 3rd. Buckley's cheeky finish wouldn't count. He was a fraction offside. Buckley was on the receiving end of a number of heavy Cardiff challenges, but the hosts couldn't contain the Watford midfielder, who was a fraction away from adding to his 4 league goals for the season. Then J. Emmanuel Thomas, making his Cardiff debut, put in a cross that Watford really should have cleared. The Hornets were punished by substitute Gabor Yepes, so there'd be no comeback and no record-breaking run. Cardiff back to winning ways.
I look at Will Buckley today, who ended up in, with 10 fouls against him, and it was from various different players. And I've been in to ask the referee, surely protection has to happen if someone's been targeted, which clearly it was. And I think that the referee's got to do something about that. He's got to justify somehow that that can't go on. And I've got a player in there whose legs are black and blue.
Guns N' Roses replaced the usual Star Wars theme at Bramall Lane, but would Axel and Slash inspire United to Mickey Adams' first win, or merely fire up a well-supported Norwich? The struggling Blades are in danger of emulating City neighbours Wednesday, who were relegated last season. They started well, with Ched Evans forcing John Ruddy into a good save. The Canaries, meanwhile, are only 2 points off the automatic promotion places. Chris Martin's free kick almost gave them the lead. It actually took Norwich an hour to break through. United felt their keeper Steve Simonson was impeded. Either way, his punch only reached Andrew Crofts, who returned with interest. The Blades still have the Championship's bluntest attack, but record signing Ched Evans gave them some hope when he made the most of Simonson's long punt. It meant United were heading for a third straight draw, that is, until the last 10 minutes. Another corner that they failed to clear. Simon Lappin had the first attempt, but Crofts had the one that mattered. So still no win for Mickey Adams, while Norwich continue on course for consecutive promotions.
Portsmouth were hoping to avoid a fourth straight Championship defeat when they took on Leeds at Fratton Park. The two teams took part in a 3-3 thriller at Ellen Road in December. This was another entertaining encounter. Greg Halford inches away from giving Pompey the perfect start. The home side had the best of the early sparring and took a deserved lead midway through the first half. Liam Lawrence drew several defenders with a probing run down the left-hand side, but it was the cleanest of strikes from Joel Ward, just his second goal for the club. Leeds, the Championship's joint top scorers, haven't been shut out by many defences this season, and just 2 minutes after the break they were level. Robert Snodgrass's free kick eventually bundled in by Luciano Becchio, league goal number 13 for the Argentine. John Utaka hadn't scored since September, but he did well to latch on to fellow Nigerian Kanu's flick on 2-1, and it was a welcome goal for Utaka, who'd clearly forgotten how to celebrate. Simon Grayson reacted by immediately bringing on David Sommer, and the South African's impact was immediate. It was Sommer's very first touch of the ball, an 8th league goal of the season, to make it 2-2. But with 15 minutes remaining, a power failure briefly halted proceedings. And the lights went out a second time with just 5 minutes to play. Eventually the game was able to reach its conclusion after 14 minutes of added time. No more power failures and no more goals, and Portsmouth earn a first Championship point of 2011.
After 7 matches undefeated at home, Reading have started to turn the Madejski into the proverbial fortress. Add to that, Hull had never won at the Madejski, and all the signs pointed towards a home win. Indeed, it was the hosts that created the better first-half chances, and they felt they should have had a penalty when Andy Dawson tangled with Jimmy Kebe, but it wasn't given. However, Hull hadn't lost away since September, and when half-time substitute Corey Evans made the most of a mistake by Ian Hart, the visitors had the lead, and the on-loan Manchester United defender had a debut goal. Defeat would have been harsh on Reading, but they were given the chance to pull level when the in-form Shane Long was tripped by Tigers' on-loan goalkeeper Brad Guzan. Hart stepped up to make amends for his earlier mistake, and so it finished 1-1, with both sides still in the hunt for a playoff place.
Yeah, Ian Hart hasn't lost his goal-scoring touch, having gone up to the Championship. And Reading continuing that good home form too. Almost a great win for Barnsley against Swansea, considering they lost both their centre-halves to suspension. But for Swansea, was that a penalty? Because there's been a bit of debate between the fans since.
I don't know why. It's a definite penalty. Yeah, Luke Steele, the goalkeeper, comes out where he shouldn't really come. He doesn't need to go there. He doesn't get anywhere near the ball.
I'd say at first I thought it wasn't, but he clearly takes the ball away from the keeper, doesn't he?
Well, as soon as he dives at the forward's feet, the forward's going to fall over it, and Sinclair steps up and gets his reward. So, you know, I don't think there's any debate. There's a definite pen.
Yeah, but Cardiff got that winning feeling. A great game at the Cardiff City Stadium. 6 goals in all against the form team in the country, let's not forget, in Watford. Jay Bothroyd, again on the score sheet after 8 games out. He, again, showing his worth to Cardiff. Yeah, and 7 weeks out, and, you know, they allow him to turn, and he just puts it in the bottom corner. He just comes back and he carries on from where he left off. And, yeah, they've got all their best players back, Cardiff.
now, and and if they can just add a defender to that, to the players that Dave Jones has signed, they've got a great chance.
I think there's a player, Keenan, who's coming in from Blackpool, the Israeli international. I was speaking to a Cardiff fan earlier today. 6 lone players in the squad now. Dave Jones has brought in. Is that a bit of a gamble? That's quite a hefty number, isn't it?
It is, but when they're season-long loans like Olafinjana, Bellamy, to the end of the season, I don't see that much of a gamble. But the other ones, short-term loans, it sometimes impacts on the younger players. But in the last couple of seasons, Cardiff have gone so close, and they've tried to get those younger players into the side, as it hasn't come off them. I just feel they're not prepared to take that gamble. They're going to try and get the best players they can get at the time, and at the moment, I think that's right for Dave Jones.
Should say well done too on a great result for Norwich. Amidst all their great attacking players, 2 goals from a midfielder. Paul Lambert will be delighted. Now, Leicester City can be proud of the way they pushed Manchester City in their FA Cup replay in midweek. Well, the Foxes returned to league action with a game against Millwall. Leicester made 3 changes from the team that lost in the Cup, including a debut for Ben Mee, who's actually on loan from Manchester City. As for an injury-hit Millwall, one of their 3 changes saw a debut to Jens Bertil Asku, on loan from Norwich. Here's Tony Gubba.
Well, there's a good open flow to the game. Both sides have clearly been set up with the intention of winning the match. Here's Robinson bursting into the penalty area. Oh, that's a tackle by Mee, and it's a penalty. Robinson went down under the challenge, and what a disastrous start. That is Ben Mee, on loan from Manchester City, stretched out a foot, and it was immediately a point at the penalty spot by the referee. Morrison will take it. Oh, and he's put it wide. What a miss. Steve Morrison was a foot too high for that top corner. What a let-off for Leicester City. Yakubu, no free kick. Oh, he's in here, he's in surely. Lloyd Dyer, so quick on the turn, just reacting quickest with that burst of pace to tip it around David Ford. Well, Millwall will be stung by that as James Hendry lifts the ball into the box. Samba gets it away, but Millwall back in possession. Nice strike! Oh, James Hendry with a fantastic left foot shot, arrowing into the top corner, and that's 2 goals in the space of a minute. The player who had a couple of loan spells at Millwall before he joined them permanently from Reading, he's never scored a better goal than that. Now here's Yakubu to run at defenders, and he's got it on his left foot. Oh! Has to go down as a goalkeeping mistake. It didn't look as if Yakubu had hit that with any great venom, but somehow it's squirmed underneath the body of the Millwall goalkeeper, David Ford. It's going to be a free kick. Referee waited, hesitated just a moment to see if an advantage would accrue. Vassell coming inside, and it was a, well, in fairness, it looks like a harsh decision because he certainly won the ball first. Oh, Leicester have taken that free kick quickly. This is Yakubu, and that's Bamba, and it's bundled in, and Bamba has scored, and Millwall were caught cold. Leicester City taking the free kick quickly. Yakubu with the shot, which was going well wide, but it hit Alan Dunn, I think, the Millwall defender, and then Bamba has escorted it over the line. It's 3-1, and Millwall went to sleep on the free kick. Millwall are still toiling away. And oh, it's a penalty. Hackett has gone down, and it's a penalty to Millwall. Well, he's toiled away down that right side and he tried to burst through 2 Leicester City defenders, and it was a surprise to most of the people in the stadium when the referee pointed at the penalty spot. And for the second time, Chris Wheel is in the firing line, and this time the goal is scored by Jack Smith, and it's 3-2 to Leicester City. And with just over 20 minutes to play, surprisingly, the final score might now be back in doubt. Oh, that's a strong challenge which has left Yakubu down, and it's a red card. Oh, and it was a wild challenge, really, by Askew, and he went right through Yakubu, and Millwall are now reduced to 10 men. Oh, they're in here! Oh, it's in! It's Bamba again! Bamba gets his second! And once again, that Millwall defence looked to be slow to react. Bamba got in behind them. Toe poke by Bamba, in off the woodwork, and Leicester restore their 2-goal advantage.
It's difficult to play against Millwall. They are physically strong. They knock a lot of balls up front and create a lot of problems for us. But we deserve to win, and good, very good.
At times we got close to them and we gave a run. You know, we did give them a run for their money, but ultimately you can't give 4 goals away and expect to get anything out of the game.
So Leicester's unbeaten home record under Sven goes to 10 games in the league. He's clearly having an impact at the Walker Stadium, Sven.
Oh, it certainly is. The style of football, the calibre of players that they're signing is certainly stepped up in terms of Yakubu, obviously Darius Vassell. So, you know, he's doing what he wants to do, but I think they need to improve their away form if they want to really push on and get into those players. I mean, I think they've only won 3 games away from home. Yeah. I think that's the key to Leicester's season.
And Bamba, 3 goals in 4 games, you know, relative unknown playing at Hibs. For £250,000, that's relatively cheap for Sven, isn't it?
It's a bargain for Sven, isn't it? And, you know, and obviously his goals are just added, it's a bonus, but his defending was key.
As for Millwall, they went into the game unbeaten in 9. But, you know, I suppose they can start again, because so far they've had a terrific season.
They have, and, you know, they're right up there and they deserve to be up there. They're strong, they're powerful, good spirit, and, you know, it's a setback for them, but they can start another run.
Now, it's been a big week for 2 people in particular at Burnley. Clark Carlisle made an unusual debut on Thursday night when he became the first footballer to appear on Question Time. And very well he did too. Well, Eddie Howe's faced a few questions over his appointment as he prepared for his first game in charge, an away trip to Scunthorpe. And there were 4 changes for Scunny, which included goalkeeper Josh Lillis, recalled from his loan spell at Rochdale. Burnley, meanwhile, made 2 changes. Dean Marnie and Ross Wallace were in for Chris Iwelumo and Graham Alexander. Here's Dan O'Hagan.
Here goes Dagnall. Michael Duff comes across to close off the avenue to Dagnall. Carlisle's stretch. It comes to the first Scunthorpe corner, just watched away there by Wolford. Choosing to settle for the flag kick rather than to keep the ball in play and try and work with it. Michael Rains forward, as is Sam Togwell, the captain. It's Wolford's corner. There's Togwell! Off the line by Wade Elliott. Togwell's touch, and Elliott beneath the crossbar, nods it away. Well, the former teammate of Eddie Howe there saves his new manager. Dagnall. Great take by Jonathan Fort here. Fort still has to hurdle his man, Mears. Wolford! Wolford shot held by Grant, but a good move there by Scunthorpe. Fort here turns hurdler. The ball broke to Wolford, and he went for goal. Grant there with a pretty routine save. Fort here is going to get the free kick, I think. Challenged by Michael Duff. And now, was he the last man, Duff? Referee Grant Hegley hasn't shown a red card since August when he sent off David Edgar of Burnley against Ipswich Town. Andrew Wright hit long towards Dagnall here. Ike clear for Burnley, sent back in there by Togwell for Fort, and Dagnall was chasing it. Now on the chase, it's Rodriguez for Burnley. Jay Rodriguez! Burnley's best chance. Rodriguez has had an eye for goal this season. 5 league goals, should really have been 6 here. Andre BK out muscles Chris Dagnall. And here's Jay Rodriguez. Eagles with him. Chris Eagles. Iwelumo's in the middle. Hits the post. Well, brought on to give that physical attack, that central figure to lead the line. Jack Cork's ball in for Iwelumo, who's got the space here. Iwelumo! Oh, good save, Josh Lillis. I'll recall this week from Rochdale on loan, but showing his worth there to Scunthorpe with a really good block from point-blank range here to fool the substitute Iwelumo. Chris Eagles. Eagles goes for goal, moving as well. Good save by Lillis. That ball swerved a lot. Really did bend in the air, that strike from Chris Eagles, and it was a good readjustment here really from Josh Lillis to make the save.
There was a freshness about us. Everyone was working for each other, and we've ground that out. You know, you're at the bottom. You've got to grind out results. You've got to be strong, tough mentally. We can be brighter going forward for sure. We can create a little bit more, but there's a platform now that we can now spring from hopefully, and playing like that with a bit more endeavour, we can win some more games.
I thought it was an excellent performance, especially second half, on a really difficult pitch and difficult conditions. We passed and moved the ball really well and showed there's a lot of good players within the squad. So although we're disappointed we didn't win, we're happy.
Paul Jewell's first home match in charge of Ipswich was against the side he described as the Arsenal of the Championship. The Gunners, the only side Ipswich had beaten in their last 5 League and Cup matches, and went into this one just 3 points above the relegation zone. But it was the away side who should have gone ahead after just 5 minutes when Billy Sharp hit the post. But just a minute later, Sharp made amends, a brilliantly taken goal to give Rovers hope of a first league win since New Year's Day. Ipswich missed several good chances in the first half, but 3 minutes after the break they were level. It was a clever cushion volley by Tamas Priskin to tee up skipper David Norris, who produced a fine volley of his own. 17-year-old Connor Wickham has attracted admiring glances from clubs in the Premier League, but signed a contract extension on Friday. He celebrated by heading in a first league goal of the season. But the lead was short-lived. In fact, it took Donny all of 10 seconds to draw level. James Coppinger's excellent cross converted by Sharp with little help from Gareth McCauley. This, the striker's third brace of the season. But within just 3 minutes, Ipswich hit back with a third goal in 4 crazy minutes. Carlos Edwards given far too much time and space. A slight deflection condemned Donny to a third straight defeat and a first league win for Jewell. Next up for Ipswich, a Carling Cup semi-final second leg at Arsenal.
I think the players deserve all the credit. We changed 1 or 2 things at half-time, changed the system. But the players, you know, you can do all the talk and throw all the teacups you like. It's up to the players, and you can tell by the reaction of the crowd that you know how pleased he was.
Preston North End offered an apology before this game after new manager Phil Brown suggested that opponents Middlesbrough hadn't paid their players recently. An untrue and unnecessary comment, said Preston. Borough have started to find some form under Tony Mowbray, and they went ahead with 20 minutes left. Matthew Bates had a go, and Andy Lonergan let it under his body. But if that was Lonergan at his worst, stand by for Lonergan at his best. It looked as though Leroy Lita couldn't miss from close range, but somehow the keeper blocked it, and it proved a crucial save, because with just 2 minutes remaining, Conor McLaughlin sent in a hopeful cross, Nathan Ellington couldn't connect, but Billy the Body Jones was there to rescue a point for bottom of the table North End.
Good point for Preston. I'm not quite sure about the comments regarding Phil Brown, though. What did you make of that?
I wasn't too sure. They weren't the facts, were they? It wasn't even true, was it?
No.
And so, you know, I think Phil needs to just check out the facts before, you know, he says things like that. But I think he's apologised for it.
He has, yeah.
I think that's the correct thing to do.
Curious incident. Well, there was a point also for the first new manager, of course, over at Burnley for Eddie Howe. Maybe he was a little lucky. I'm not sure, actually, whether Burnley should have had 11 men on the pitch come 90 minutes. What did you think of this?
Well, when I first saw it, I thought he's going to get sent off. And then you looked at the referee's position. He wasn't in a great position to see it, the ref. And I think it was blind because of something that happened just before. He was going to blow for a free kick for Mike Ducker because I think a Burnley player put a high foot towards his head, but then Duff just sticks his legs out. It's grievous bodily harm.
No red card from the referee, Grant Headley. In his 20 games, 22 yellows and a couple of reds. Would the players have known that going into it?
I think that when you go into games like you know what kind of referee you're going to get. So the players would have been aware of that. But that was just a reaction from Mike Duff. It wasn't premeditated. It was a reaction because he almost had his head kicked off just before.
Yeah.
And just in frustration, he stuck his leg out. But he was fortunate to get away with it.
Paul Jewell's up and running as well. 3 points as the new manager of Ipswich Town. Entertainment hasn't exactly been a frequent, I suppose, element at Portman Road over the last season and for this season for sure. But great win for them and a good strike from David Norris.
Yeah, great strike, David Norris. Used to be a wide player, and whoever got him into the centre of the midfield, that was an inspired move. But Portman Road, I think what lifted them was the FA Cup. The cup against Arsenal,
Carling Cup,
the Carling Cup. And now they've gone on and got another good performance at Portman Road, and they need to turn it into a fortress to move up the table.
Connor Wickham signing a new deal. Things are starting to become a bit more optimistic at Ipswich. Now then, it's been a busy couple of weeks for the owners of Crystal Palace. Last week, of course, they appointed Dougie Freedman as their new manager. Well, on Thursday, they announced plans to move away from Selhurst Park and to the new National Sports Centre, a move which, if it comes off, will have a major bearing on whether it's West Ham or Spurs who'll be moving to the Olympic Stadium. Well, sounds like the perfect story to keep our Clem on his toes.
At the start of the last century, FA Cup finals, England internationals and Crystal Palace home games were all played on this site long before the National Sports Centre became the home of UK athletics. Spurs now want to redevelop it in return for making the Olympic Stadium a football-only venue, but the 4 lifelong Palace supporters who rescued their club last summer have designs on the place themselves for a new 40,000 capacity ground.
Obviously, the Tottenham bid would mean a running track at the Sports Centre. If that happened, we'd have to talk to Tottenham, or if they wanted to talk to us, and see if maybe we could make a purpose-built dual-use stadium.
You knew this was going to happen, did you? That you were going to have to develop away from Selhurst Park very quickly when you took over?
I mean, look, you've been around the ground today, you've been here before, 1924, the stand we're in now, it's people have evolved since this thing was built, the seats are too small, everything, so we've got to do something.
That's my cousin.
Yeah?
Yes, the good-looking.
Not as good-looking as Joe, so don't build your part on.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, and then I'm not related to all that lot at the back.
Are you paying for them to come today?
Oh, what are you like? Might be.
Do you know what? I had no idea you were a Palace fan. Somehow it has passed me by. I'm
You
normally
obviously
quite
don't read Women's Own, do you?
But what do you think about the prospect of leaving this place behind and going to the National Sports Centre?
Well, I think it's a bit mad to start fantasising about that at this point. I do, because I just think these things have a habit of not happening, don't they? So I'm going to wait for a little bit more time until I feel more confident that it actually might happen.
To get away from this, a good idea.
I've heard this before, but it's the right place to go. I think that the proposals look really exciting.
I like coming here, but I think the new Crystal Palace would be quite something.
That's where we was founded in 1905. That's where we first started playing. So I'd be more than happy to go back there.
The more pressing concern for Palace as they entertain Bristol City is dragging themselves away from the relegation zone. And with that in mind, this week they've also appointed a wise old head to assist their rookie manager.
Congratulations on your new post, mate. Thank you very much.
I'm just impressed with him, Doug. He's driven. You've got to be single-minded. You've got to have energy, you've got to have enthusiasm, and those are the starting qualities, and he's got them in abundance. And you can sense it around the place. People want him to do well. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's a real groundswell that really, really wants him to do well.
Crystal Palace hadn't lost at Selhurst Park since October, and their home form could be key to the Eagles' survival. They were fortunate to survive some early scares against Bristol City. This effort from Marvin Elliott, the best of them. The Robins themselves have won just once in their last 6 league games. Brett Pitman's been their main goal source of late, but even he was having trouble finding the target. No team has failed to score in as many league matches as Palace this season, and it looked like being just one of those days for the hosts when Darren Ambrose rattled an upright 5 minutes into the second half. Last season's corresponding fixture saw Bristol City win at Palace for the first time in 48 years. Ivan Sproul had the chance to win it late on here, the post this time coming to Palace's rescue. So Keith Millen's side denied a first, winning 5 away from home. Palace remain in the bottom 3.
How does it feel to have the hopes of all these people that you've been with for years and years and years, a club that's etched into your DNA, resting on your shoulders?
It's fine, you know. I'm really comfortable, you know. The fans have been tremendous to me over the last 10-15 years. They've been great to me since I've been caretaker, and today, as you said, seeing, you know, chant my name, it's been fantastic. They know whatever decision I would make will come from the heart and from the head. You know, I won't be rushed into certain things. I will make decisions that will help this club go forward. And as I said, decisions on the pitch as well that hopefully will take us forward.
Well, I certainly feel better after getting his first league point for Dougie Freedman. And it would be great, I mean, not only for Crystal Palace fans and for the away fans as well. We've all been to Sellers Park. Not the best or easiest place to get in and out of it, should they move to the National Sports Centre.
Oh, of course they should. I mean, Sellers Park was where I saw my first game. You know, David Swindlehurst was playing up front. Yeah. So it's got happy memories for me, but it hasn't changed. It's dilapidated now, and you know, if Palace fans want to move to a stadium where they can be proud of the facilities, obviously it's got great history, Sellers Park, but they know they need to move on, and it'll be the catalyst for that club moving forward.
Well, maybe Palace fans have been getting in touch, so let's hear from them and some other Championship supporters. So, Lizzie, what have you got for us with the emails and texts?
Well, actually, I haven't had anything from Palace fans about the stadium, although I can tell you from being there several times as a reporter, there is a fox infestation at Selhurst Park, so I, for one, think it's a good idea that they should move. Let's talk about Cardiff-Watford. Gary says, did the referee forget his cards against Watford today? In all my time of watching football, I've never seen a competitive match without a card. Well, I thought it was kind of unusual, but actually it didn't take me long to find loads of games without cards, so it's not unusual at all. Craig, a Coventry City fan, he wants to talk about... it's still about Cardiff, and I know you've talked about this, but it's to do with the number of loan players. He says, surely having that number of loan players, and Cardiff had 4 today in their squad, is to the detriment of academy players. Leroy, what do you think about that? Because I know there's a rule saying you can't have more than 5 in a matchday squad, but it must affect bringing up the young players having so many loanees.
It obviously affects young players coming through and getting an opportunity, but it can also have a positive effect. So if you're getting good loan players from Premier League clubs and they're around your football club, and training with those young players, it can improve, it can help their development as well. So it's a two-sided sword.
OK, there you go, Craig. And apparently Coventry City haven't got any loan players. Andrew, Ahmed, Juggy and Dam, just some of the Leicester City fans ecstatic with today's performance, and particularly Yakubu's. Ian says, I can't believe what I'm seeing at Leicester City. Did I really see Yakubu and Vassell playing for us and then look over and see Sven as our manager? Yes, you did. But Big George, who's a Millwall fan, says, Steve Morrison, if you're watching, penalties, work on them. Norman has a message for Paul Jewell at Ipswich. He says, glad we finally got Wickham signed, but please sign up the others like Gareth McCauley and David Norris. Forest fans celebrating their double over Derby, their first double in 21 years. But Gary, Steve and Mark all seemed pretty much almost as happy with Robbie Savage throwing his boots. Ed did talk about the football. He says, I can't see Derby's form changing while Chris Porter plays up front on its own. And just got to quickly talk about losing top scorers, because Nick, who's a Barnsley fan, says, you can't blame Adam Hamill for leaving for money, although he says we will be playing the Wolves next season when they get relegated. Thanks for those. League One next.
Yeah, to League One, and that intriguing game on the south coast as leaders Brighton travel to 4th place Bournemouth. The Cherries, of course, starting life without Eddie Howe.
Caretaker manager Lee Bradbury has a hard act to follow at Bournemouth, but what better way to stake his claim for the job than beating the leaders? Thanks to one of the goals of a season from Liam Feeney, Brighton were set to suffer just their 4th defeat of a campaign. Albion boss Gus Poyet sprung a surprise by starting with top scorer Glenn Murray on the bench. He instantly made an impact after coming on as a sub, only for his joy to be cut short by an offside flag, a very close call. If Murray was annoyed with the assistant that time, he was irritated with himself soon after. An excellent exchange of passes with Chris Wood teed up an opportunity that on current form he'd expect to convert, but Bradbury's boys held on and are up to 2nd.
The lads are different class, to be fair, and they have been since I took over a week ago. You know, I've told them what you get out, what you put in, and they've put a lot in. And at the moment, they're getting a lot out, which is great for me. They make my job easy, to be honest.
Huddersfield were held at home for the first time in 4 months as they look to bounce back from a 4-0 defeat at Carlisle in the Johnstone's Paint Trophy in the week. Lee Novak should have done better after being teed up by Gary Roberts. That miss could have been costly, as draw specialist Colchester went close to pinching all the points late on. Anthony Wordsworth found space down the left before supplying the cross for Kyoto Orijai. The striker's impressive leap met by an equally impressive save from veteran keeper Ian Bennett. All square in West Yorkshire.
Southampton never seem happy at Tranmere, their last win on the Wirral coming 52 years ago. And their Prenton Park hoodoo struck again when Jose Fonte and keeper Kelvin Davis turned to stone, allowing John Welsh to give the home side a 13th minute lead. Scorers of 6 last time out on the road, Saints offered little in reply, although Brazilian striker Gulli de Prado almost celebrated making his loan deal permanent early this week. Rovers keeper Tony Warner had other ideas. On the hour, Tranmere made it safe. Teenager Dale Jennings continues to draw rave reviews and seems destined for bigger and better things. This truly stunning effort will only add to the interest around him. Jennings can keep Rovers in League One, but how much longer can they hold on to him?
If last week was too soon for Darren Ferguson to impose himself at Peterborough, this second game in charge revived memories of his posh side winning promotion in 2009. Craig McCall-Smith had the final say in the head tennis just past the hour to prompt a surprising Hartlepool collapse. Mick Wadsworth's men have been renowned for the meanness of their defence on the road this season, but no sooner had they fallen behind than George Boyd was causing more problems. Jake King kept out the first effort, but could do nothing about Tommy Rowe's follow-up. Just 6 minutes after the first Peterborough goal, the match was well and truly wrapped up. McCall-Smith allowed plenty of time to size up his cross for Lee Tomlin. Hartlepool have now gone 4 league games without winning, and even more worryingly have failed to score in any of those. Posh, by contrast, took their goal tally for the season onto a very healthy 50, thanks to James Wesolowski. With another promotion the target, the boss could reflect on a job well done.
They're a good team, Hartlepool. You know, Mick's done a good job, and they've only conceded 9 away from home. And what they're trying to do, they'll try and suck you in and get you losing your concentration, which we did just before half-time, and they had a good chance. But once we scored the goals, we won and won comfortably, really.
Dagenham were the architects of their own downfall against the high-flying Dons. After holding on for what looked to be a well-earned point, Danny Green handed the initiative to the visitors by elbowing Luke Chadwick. A straight red card meant the Daggers would be up against it for the final 15 minutes. Carl Robinson's men set about pressing home their advantage to keep them in playoff contention. Danny Woodard picked out Jabu Abire, whose searching cross was almost turned home by strike partner Sam Baldock. Relief for Dagenham, who looked to have survived the onslaught, but in a cruel twist, Mark Carrington's hopeful drive at the death caught out 41-year-old Tony Roberts, who handed the Dons victory but keeps them in the mix at the top.
The return of the hero, this time in sharp suit. A genuine Charlton legend as a player, it's now Chris Powell's job to re-energise the Addicts' faltering promotion push. But the new manager had to wait 55 minutes for the breakthrough against stubborn Plymouth. Then Marcel Sipes' suicidal back pass set it up for Scott Wagstaff to bag his second goal in as many matches. But Charlton had to wait until the final minute to make sure of the win. Liverpool loanee Nathan Eccleston coming off the bench to score on his home debut. A first win in 2 months for the Addicts gets them back on track. Just the start Powell was looking for.
The boys have been very, very responsive, and you know, I just encourage them to go out there and play with a bit more confidence, a bit more freedom. And it's not easy. You know, it's not easy with young players who are still learning the game, but you know, I'm very encouraged by what I've seen today, and you know, I thought every single player played their part in our victory.
Yeah, congratulations to Chris Powell on his first 3 league points as a manager at Charlton. As for Bournemouth, well, no matter how much you chuck at them, if it's points deductions, if it's losing your star strikers, or your manager, as happened recently with Eddie Howe, they will still defy the odds, and they did it again against the leaders, Brighton.
Well, they're a good side, Bournemouth, and they carried on from where, you know, Eddie left them. But, you know, Lee Bradbury and Steve Fletcher going in there, I think it's a great move. It's like a little boot room, and that was a great finish by Liam Feeney. Just waited for it to come onto his right foot, but he kept it down as well, and I thought that was excellent. But as I said, Bournemouth just carry on and just promoting from within not only is it cheap, but it works as well,
Yeah.
and they need to keep doing that.
We saw the battle of the ex-physios between Tranmere and Southampton. Dale Jennings is a wonder kid, and we've spoken about him a few times now on the programme. What a strike this is. But Tranmere seem to pick up their game at home, particularly against the top sides in the division.
Absolutely. I mean, they've got a great record against the top sides. Great awareness from Dale Jennings there. Just caressed it. Poor
It is
Kelvin
Michael
Davis.
Owen-esque the way he's tapped that away.
Absolutely. I mean, because he's little as well. People think he's just like Michael. He's quick and he's sharp and he's bright, but he's got a great little football brain, and you know, he's developing along the right lines. Just wonder if Southampton's game against Man United is a little bit on their minds at the moment.
Yeah, quite possibly. Obviously, at Dagenham and Redbridge, this whole new initiative, 99p tickets for adults, 25p for juniors, 4,000 crammed in at the ground today. Had the makings of a late win possibly for Dagenham and Redbridge, but it wasn't to be.
Oh, it went against them, you know, and yeah, I feel for Tony Roberts. He's been absolutely fantastic, hasn't he, for them? But, you know, he won't want to see this again, but I'm sure it's happened to him before and he's picked himself up and he'll do that again. I mean, he's 41 years old. He knows, you know, that what it's like for a goalkeeper. That won't bother him. But I feel for Dagenham. A club that think outside the box, try and make things happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, by that initiative today, getting 4,000 people in, brilliant. And it was an anti-racist day, so, you know, well done to John Steele and Dagenham. But, you know, they've got a lot to do.
Certainly do. So does that pitch by the looks of things. Well, as for the rest of League One, Oldham began the day just 1 point outside the top 6. They faced a Brentford team who themselves have got an eye on the playoffs.
Oldham's response to that 6-0 home humiliation against Southampton has been back-to-back victories. Umari Tunkara gave them the lead 5 minutes before the break against Brentford. The Frenchman on loan from Sunderland making it 7 league goals for the season. And goal scorer turned provider 20 minutes from time. Tunkara setting up substitute Philippe Moraes, and he lashed in his first goal in English football in more than 4 years. Martial arts, though, not his speciality. The Bees have now lost their last 4 in the league, and despite this terrific finish from Huddersfield loanee Robbie Simpson 8 minutes from time, it's Oldham who've moved back to within sight of a playoff place.
The O's and the Owls met in a league fixture at Brisbane Road for the first time in almost 30 years. Back then, Orient won 3-0, a scoreline that never looked like being eclipsed after a tightly contested first half. But after the break, Wednesday were blitzed. Gary Teal's handball had Ben Chorley celebrating from the spot 6 minutes into the second half. Alan Irvine described his side's defending as awful, highlighted when 17-year-old Spurs loanee Harry Kane nipped in to double the lead just 6 minutes later. And the Owls were punished again when Alex Ravel ghosted in to grab his 13th of the season to stretch Orient's unbeaten run at home to 7 league matches. Russell Slade's men completed the rout 5 minutes from the end. Another Spurs loanee, Paul Josie and Poku, condemning Wednesday to a 4th straight defeat on the road.
A setback for Yeovil's spirited effort to escape the bottom 4. They'd gone 5 league games without conceding, but Rochdale's Gary Jones found the key. His club hot on the heels of the playoff pack.
Notts County will hope for a little more luck when they face Manchester City in the Cup next weekend. Nothing fell their way against Carlisle, and no one put in a better shift than Alan Gow. But the Scotsman's effort didn't produce the result they deserved. 10 minutes into the second half, Lubomir Mikulic's effort was blocked, and Francois Zoko put away the rebound. The Ivorian striker's 7th of the season in all competitions, good enough for Carlisle's first away win since September.
Having made an encouraging start as caretaker, Dean Smith took the Walsall reins for the first time since being handed the job for the rest of the season. But he watched his side fall behind inside the first 5 minutes at Exeter. Stephen Tully's cross wasn't dealt with, and Richard Duffy took full advantage to put them on course for their first win of the new year. Walsall, with just 5 wins all season, should have been down by more at the break. Liam Sercombe put Jamie Cureton clean through, but the veteran striker blew his chance to take his tally for the season to 13. But 13 minutes from the end, the Saddlers' resistance was broken again. Daniel Nardiello's well-placed finish put the hosts firmly in control. By now, Exeter sensed an opportunity to increase their lead. Aaron Lescott's trip on John O'Flynn gave Nardiello the chance to grab a second from the spot. But the former Manchester United striker was denied by Jimmy Walker. It was the strugglers who had the final word, though. Julian Gray eventually forcing home a late consolation, but defeat in Devon leaves the Saddlers still 9 points from safety.
Swindon's playoff final appearance back in May must already seem a distant memory for their fans. The club now just 1 place and 1 point above the drop zone, unable to recover from Will Hoskins' impressively taken early goal for Bristol Rovers. 3 minutes after the break, Danny Wilson's men sealed their own fate with a disastrous attempt to build from the back. Alan Sheehan was closed down quickly, and his misunderstanding with Lectionnaire Jean-Francois was a gift for Joe Kufor. Rovers on course for a huge victory in their push to avoid relegation, and the first since Dave Penny took charge, though John Paul McGovern put them back on tenterhooks for a while with 24 minutes still to play. Without a win since mid-October, Rovers could easily have crumbled. Instead, they secured success when Hoskins picked out Jeff Hughes. A win they hope will be a fresh start.
Yeah, first win since October the 16th for Bristol Rovers, but for Swindon, and Danny Wilson doesn't like last season being brought up, but you can't get away from the fact that these are chalk and cheese seasons for them.
Of course, and that's because he's lost key players. You know, you lose Greer, Painter, and Morrison. He's gone to Reading.
Yeah, recently, yeah.
Charlie Austin's asked for a transfer request. It's tough to replace your best players, and that's what Swindon have come up against. And the expectations being so high, put a lot of pressure on the young players.
One of the performances of that roundup has to be at Brisbane Road, Leyton Orient's demolition of Sheffield Wednesday. This is a terrific performance from Orient, isn't it?
Yeah, Russell Slayside. They've got a good recent home record as well. I think they're unbeaten in their last 6. But you know what, you've got to be really concerned for Sheffield Wednesday, you know, to get beat 4-0. You know, I think Alan Irvine would be pretty upset by that performance. 6
home games coming up for Leyton Orient over the next few weeks. It's a defining period of the season for them.
Really important, you know. Russell, who I know very well, will know that, and they've got their home form going, and if they can get 3, 4, 5 wins out of those 6, it'll certainly set up their season quite nicely.
What a great week to 10 days it's been for Carlisle. I mean, they've scored 9 goals, they've conceded none, all in 3 games, and without Gary Medina, who they've sold to Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, great guy, but you know, he lost his top goal scorer, but you know, they're playing ever so well. They totally demolished Huddersfield in midweek, and this was you know, an excellent win against Notts County, an informed Notts County. Let's not forget, they've been playing well.
Yeah, and on the verge of an appearance at Wembley once again in the JPT. Maybe Carlisle fans have been in touch, so Lizzie, have they?
Yeah, they have actually. Rachel says, this is about losing Gary Medina, as you just said. She said, without him, it's refreshing to see 3 consecutive wins in all competitions. Let's talk about the 99p and no segregation, because we've had loads of Daggers and MK Dons fans getting in touch. Everyone liked the price, as you'd imagine, but it's been 50-50 on segregation. In the 4 camp, James, Alfie, Sir Jabo and Paul, all 4. Paul says it was refreshing to stand side by side with opposition fans on the whole. There was a bit of trouble, though, against Dan, Ilks, Parker, Tom and all the Dons boys. Nathan Boswell, who's Daggers fan, says the mixed crowd was very uncomfortable in the last 15 minutes. I wouldn't recommend it. Jamie, an MK Dons fan, says it showed why there is segregation between fans. After we scored the winner, we had missiles thrown at us and the police had to hold back. So not necessarily a total success there. Mark says, well done, Bradders, Fletch and all the squad at Bournemouth. Brilliant, I guess, for them to see them win after losing Eddie Howe. He said, let's keep the momentum going. And Bournemouth fans, did you know that Lee Bradbury is also the Isle of Wight manager? There you go. You learn something every day on the Football League show. Hannah, Kieran, Stephen, all delighted with Chris Powell as manager at Charlton. And I've got a question for you, Leroy, from Scott. He says, does being a club legend like Chris Powell help or hinder you as a manager?
Oh, help now, because he's won his first game. So that's the most important thing. But at the end of the day, that will be forgotten. And when Chris leaves that club as manager, that's when people will remember him as a legend. But at the moment, he's a manager of the football club who's got to get results and got to get Charlton up into the Championship.
Yeah, because we think it didn't really help Brian Garner or Alan Shearer, but of course Eddie Howe is someone it did work with. And a good source at the Valley says that Jason Ewell and his agent were there today, so maybe they could be playing for Charlton, or he could be playing for Charlton soon. And Matt Holland is rumoured to be Chris Powell's number 2. That's it for League One. Run out of time. League Two next.
Yeah, sounds like an old boys reunion at the Valley. To League Two then, as you say, Lizzie, and there were a couple of games which fell victim to the weather, with those at Accrington and Bradford both postponed. As for the top of the table, Chesterfield have steadily built up a 5-point lead, and the Spyrights faced a tough assignment on Saturday, an away trip to 6th-placed Shrewsbury.
These two starred in a 7-goal thriller back in October. No such drama this time, despite Shrewsbury's best attempts to avenge their defeat back in Derbyshire. Craig Disley perhaps had too much time to think about beating Tommy Lee. A let-off for the leaders, who in the end will have been pleased with their point, but might reflect on a missed opportunity to have nicked all three. Jack Leicester did the hard work, but Dean Smalley missed the chance to be Chesterfield's hero.
Second played third at Adams Park, and when the pressure's on, there's nothing quite like a wise old head to make the difference. 37-year-old Wycombe skipper Gareth Ainsworth scored a winner which keeps the heat on leaders Chesterfield, while Rotherham's disappointing afternoon was topped off by Jason Taylor's stoppage time kick at Ben Strevens, which may have eased his frustration for a split second, but incurred a heavy penalty. 6 wins from 7 for Wycombe.
Jim Gannon's home debut as Port Vale manager ended with chance of sack the board as Vale lost for the 5th time in 6 league matches. Their cause not helped when Gareth Owen was sent off by referee Jeff Eltringham for bringing down Cheltenham's Wes Thomas on 39 minutes. And the 10 men were undone 10 minutes into the second half. Jeff Goulding converting Keith Lowe's cross for his 9th league goal of the season. That's 7 away league games without defeat for the Robins. Vale's problems seem to be mounting.
Dean Holdsworth's impressive start at Aldershot continues, although his side had to come from behind to see off Crewe. Danny Shelley finding the hole in the wall to give the division's top scorers the lead. But having taken 7 points from his first 9 in charge, Holdsworth has turned the Hampshire club into possible playoff contenders. They trailed on this one for just 5 minutes. Wade Small headed home Jermaine McGlashan's cross to level the scores. But just before the break, Crewe forged ahead again as Clayton Donaldson bundled in Byron Moore's cross for his 15th of the season. But Aldershot's fighting spirit came to the fore again just past the hour as Peter Vincenti opened his account after signing from Stevenage earlier this month. With the scores locked at 2-2 and little time left, the home side went for broke. The pace of McGlashan left Crewe keeper Rhys Taylor with a decision to make. It turned out to be the wrong one and had referee Keith Stroud reaching for his pocket. The Alex stopper shown red for handling outside the area. And from the resulting free kick, Luke Gutteridge curled in his 4th in 5 games to clinch victory. Aldershot's revival continues.
Paul Buckle's 200th game in charge of Torquay couldn't have got off to a better start. Handed the advantage just 7 minutes in when Alan Julian fumbled Ewan O'Kane's shot. Elliot Benyon pouncing for his 13th league goal of the season. The cue for a Gillingham onslaught. Andy Hessenthaler's side's been in good form, and Cody McDonald's clever flick underlined their confidence. Scott Bevan was having a busy afternoon. Torquay were just starting to think they'd done enough when the Gills finally got their reward. With only 3 minutes to go, the home side gave the ball back after a stoppage and regretted their sportsmanship. Julian's long kick found Adiakim Fenwa, and there were a couple of neat touches from the powerful forward as Torquay dropped deeper and deeper before Luke Rooney tried his luck from distance. A last-ditch equaliser. So when Gillingham were allowed to contest the next drop ball rather than give it back, it was all too much for Buckle, banished to the stand to end his milestone match on a low note.
There's no doubt Gillingham is certainly a different proposition altogether than they were, what, just 2 months ago. An incredible turnaround under Andy Hessenthaler. As for Wycombe, great win for them in that top-of-the-table clash against Rotherham.
Yeah, Gareth Ainsworth again. Great goal, and
the veteran that is Gareth.
The veteran that just keeps going, and he's done it ever so well. But Gary Waddick has got him playing very well, and that was a big game today.
Yeah, talking of veteran, of course, there's Dario Gradi at Crewe, the man in the opposite dugout at Aldershot, Dean Holdsworth, probably one of the least experienced in the Football League in that division, that's for certain. Bit of comedy here, what do you think?
Oh, great!
This is your proverbial pinball.
Lovely passing movement, and he kicks it against his head, his own player's head, and Peter Vincenti, they just recently signed for Stevenage, sticks it in the net. And then Luke Gutteridge is a veteran who's been around, gets the winner, I think, in the 4th minute of injury time, and it's another good win for Aldershot.
Well done to Dean Holdsworth. He's only gone and raised expectations. What's he done? Right, let's wrap up the rest of League Two, and it was an emotional day at Moss Rose for the game between Macclesfield and Barnet. This was, of course, Macclesfield's first game since the tragic death of their midfielder, Richard Butcher. It was a day for many to pay their respects.
This would have been Richard Butcher's 30th birthday. No celebrations at Moss Rose, just respectful remembrance of a life cut short. A player fondly remembered by everyone. Butcher was both respected as a player and liked as a man. Barnet and Macclesfield did his memory proud. The visitors were in front first. Eyes on McLeod's confidence on the ball, teasing Paul Morgan into a reckless challenge. McLeod himself stepped up to put away his 6th goal from his last 7 outings. The hosts were level 20 minutes from time. Colin Daniels' deflected effort flat-footing Liam O'Brien in the Barnet goal. No losers in this one, and a difficult afternoon handled with class by everyone involved. The game of football really isn't a matter of life and death.
This doesn't happen to clubs in a lifetime, more than a lifetime. You know, we've had to do it twice in 10 months, and you know, the players, to be fair to them, I'm proud of them. How they've handled themselves the last couple of weeks. You know, we could have folded today, but we didn't. They kept playing. But yeah, I mean, it's been a difficult time.
Friday night frustration for Bury, whose promotion hopes suffered yet another blow. It's now 6 games without a win for Alan Nill's men, who came within seconds of clinching a much-needed victory. Damien Mazika had them ahead at Southend just past the hour. The Frenchman's first for the Shakers had them on course for an unrivalled 8th away success. But in an attempt to rescue a point, Shrimpers boss Paul Sturrock threw on defender Bilal Mosny up front. And 5 minutes into stoppage time, he announced his return from injury by heading in Ryan Hall's cross for a dramatic equaliser. On balance, a deserved point for the Essex club, but Bury will be kicking themselves.
Oxford were on the hunt for a 4th successive win, but Andy Holt's flick made for an unhappy dressing room at half-time. Northampton hoping for a notable scalp, only to let their advantage slip just 2 minutes after the restart. Somehow Tom Craddock slipped in on the blind side to score for the 4th successive game. Oxford, though, blew their chance to push on for a place in the top 7. Holt's cross found a huge hole in the centre of View's defence, which Leon Mackenzie was delighted to exploit.
Stevenage carried on where they'd left off against Newcastle in the Cup. Just 5 minutes on the clock when Scott Laird steered John Musinho's cross into the Morecambe net, making amends for a penalty miss against the same opponents earlier in the season. And it was game over 4 minutes later. Laird again involved, his cross forcing Kieran Charnock into an own goal under pressure from Charlie Griffin. And that left Stevenage with the rest of the match to dream about the prospect of more Cup glory.
The stats hardly pointed to a thriller, but these two survival rivals served up a treat. Ashley Grimes' fabulous lob had bottom club Lincoln in front after just 5 minutes. Stockport, beaten by fellow strugglers Hereford last week, were back on terms when Adam Griffin reacted quickest after Scott Kerr's free kick was kept out by debutant keeper Trevor Carson. Adam Watts ensured Lincoln headed for the break on top. The former Fulham trainee met Danny Hones knocked down to give his team the half-time advantage. A quiet start to the second half suddenly exploded on the hour mark with 3 goals in 5 minutes. Josh O'Keefe sent Lincoln's Gavin McCallum clear, and instead of trying to take the glory himself, chose to set up Grimes for an easy second. Their 2-goal cushion didn't last long as Stockport clawed their way back. Substitute David Poole nipped in to put the hosts back into contention. Just a pity his team can't stop leaking goals, and soon after they conceded for the 61st time this season. Matt Glennon did well to keep out Luke Howell, but Grimes was on hand to complete his hat-trick. The Millwall loanee's 7th of the campaign had Lincoln back in command. But back came Stockport with still 16 minutes to play. Ishmael de Montenac's effort went in off Watts, who had the dubious honour of scoring at both ends, but Lincoln held on to give their survival hopes a huge boost.
4 goals, not bad at all for the lowest scorers in that division. And well done to Ashley Grimes. There are only 3 hat-tricks in the entire Football League, including the Premier League as well. This was the best of the lot, and it was a great little strike, that.
Great finish, instinctive, saw the keeper off his line, and just finished it off beautifully. And it was a great way to start the game. And good for Lincoln because they've not I don't think they've played in the whole month of December,
No.
and that's what's put them on the back foot. They've got games in hand, but obviously
including
it's points.
over Stockport.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's points that count, and they need to get some points on the board.
Stockport need a manager, and quick.
Yeah, big time. You know, Paul Simpson's gone, a bit acrimonious, in all honesty. Peter Ward's there now, but they need to get some stability to move that club forward, because they've been on a downward spiral now for what, 2 seasons now.
Well done to Stevenage, because that was a decent result against the Morecambe side that were just hitting form too.
Yeah, Sammy's got them playing well, and you know, Graham Westy, Stevenage are very frugal. They don't give a lot of goals away. Very well organised. Will be.
It's the best defence in that division.
Yeah, and they'll be on a high after the Newcastle result as well. So you know, they're doing well, and that's a very, very good result.
Right, let's hear then from League Two fans finally tonight. Lizzie, over to you.
Actually, let's start with the Stevenage fan, because Matt says, I know it's too much expectation, but playoffs for Borough, come on. Simon is a Wycombe fan, says Wycombe were utterly brilliant today without a shadow of a doubt, the most one-sided game ever. Alex, a Cheltenham fan, says it just goes to show that when we dig in, we can beat anyone. James and Laura says, please mention bottom of the table Lincoln. Hat-trick for Ashley Grimes needs a mention. But Robson, who's a Stockport County fan, says, leaving today's game was like leaving a funeral. People throwing their scarves on the pitch, booing at the end. We have no back four, a poor midfield except Turnbull, and a non-existent strike force. To the conference we go. We're going to talk about Bradford Burton, of course, because, well, so many of you have been touched. Barry and Paul, Reece, Josh, Cheryl, Adam, Sam, Ash, just a few of you, all very unhappy with the late postponement, many calling for refunds. Ian, David and Ginn had to travel 150 miles round trip with less than an hour's notice. They said it's appalling, but the hospitality of the Bradford fans went to some way to help them out. Jeff and Nigel both worried about the fixture congestion for Burton. They've got 26 games less to play. They've only played 21, I think, all season. Neil is a Bradford fan, says, I'm very sorry to the Bradford fans. Now, there's been no mention of a refund yet, because a lot of you calling for a refund. We're presuming that they'll say that when the match is rescheduled, you'll get free tickets. But there were also rumours that the covers were left off. Well, Bradford say that the pitch was covered, and that they obviously wanted to play it, and that it looked fine, which is why they didn't call for an early inspection. The referee said he got there around 12:30, and the reason it was such a late postponement was because he wanted Paul Pescasolido, the Burton manager, to see the pitch. He wanted to see it. He was delayed in traffic, so it was 1:30 before it was called off. So pretty bad for all those Bradford fans. And of course, we mustn't forget Accrington, Hereford. There were 50 fans who are still stuck, apparently, because that match was called off as well. Sorry if I didn't read your emails out. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for all your messages. Before we go, let's take a look at the league tables, shall we? And Chesterfield's lead at the top of npower League 2 is cut to 3 points after they drew at Shrewsbury. Inform Wycombe won the battle between second and third as they saw off Rotherham. It's now 6 wins in 7 for Gary Waddock's men. It's not looking good, however, for manager Stockport, and their troubles deepen after losing to bottom place Lincoln. The Imps are now just 2 points behind County and have got 5 games in hand. Only 3 points separate the bottom 5. Bournemouth began life with that Eddie Howe in style at the top of npower League 1 as they inflicted only Brighton's 4th defeat of the season to move up into second. Darren Ferguson's return to London Road was a memorable one. Free-scoring Peterborough confirmed their status as the division's top scorers after hitting Hartlepool for 4. And Peterborough stay 5th. Bristol Rovers were the only side in the relegation zone to win on Saturday. It was their first in 13 games. Elsewhere, there were superb wins for Tranmere, Leyton Orient as well to ease their relegation fears, but it's a nervy time for Swindon. They've lost 3 in a row now and sit just 1 point above the bottom 4. Watford's 6-game winning streak was brought to an end in the npower Championship by Cardiff, who joined Swansea and Norwich on 47 points, 2 points behind QPR, who play on Sunday. Nottingham Forest's second victory in a month over their fierce rivals Derby sees them move up into the playoff places. Paul Jewell's first win as Ipswich manager was the only 3 points picked up by any of the teams in the bottom half, and takes them up to 19th and away from the bottom 3. Crystal Palace's goalless draw with Bristol City was their 5th clean sheet in a row at Selhurst Park. Right, if you want to watch the show back again, we're on the red button till midday and on Freeview until 10 to 7 on Sunday morning. Otherwise, we're on the iPlayer all week. And if you're after extended match highlights from the npower Football League, just go to the BBC Sport website. And there's more football, incidentally, on Sunday night with Match of the Day 2 on air at 10 o'clock on 2. And don't forget, late kick-off is back on Monday nights with news involving the teams in your region at 11:05. And we're back on Wednesday evening with the League Cup show, with highlights of both semi-final second legs, where there's no greater incentive than a place at Wembley. Well, that's it from us. Thanks to Lizzie and to Leroy. We'll see you on Wednesday. Good night.